Let's go. I wanted to wait for this live stream to start because we do have a fresh set of college football playoff rankings, and it still remains ridiculous. I don't care who you are, I don't care where you're from. It is dumb, absolutely, that Ole Miss is okay with Lane Kiffin's right-hand man, Charlie Weiss Jr., to come back to Oxford and call plays, but not actually let Lane finish what he started. Ole Miss fans, get over yourself and let this man try to lead you to the only national championship you will ever get close to. My goodness gracious, I can't believe I'm even saying this aloud. Rebel Nation, I'm trying to help you. Yes, let me help you. Logan Paul had a song, "Let me help you," or is it "Help me help you"? Ha, ha, ha. I'm trying to help you. Ole Miss, you still got time to do the right thing and let Lane come back and lead Kawan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss, even though they'll be LSU Tigers next season, lead you to a national championship. And I don't know if they're going to come to LSU, but they should. Please, Trinidad, come on. We'll love you here in Baton Rouge, unlike people in Oxford that aren't doing the right thing for you. Okay, so the big news today, we're going to get to the two commitments that LSU brought in for the class of 2026. They were Ole Miss flipped over to LSU. We're going to talk about a relatively explosive story that one of my fellow YouTubers put out into the atmosphere a little bit earlier today. But to me, the big thing here today is Charlie Weiss Jr. Why are you letting him come coach the Ole Miss Rebels and you don't want Lane, the guy, the only man who has ever made Ole Miss nationally relevant, who led you to 4 10-win seasons in 5 years? I guess none of that means anything to Ole Miss fans. They don't know how to win, right? You always say, act like you've been there before. Well, Ole Miss has never been here before, and this is the only time you'll ever be in this spot. Let the man coach your team. But what do I know? What do I know? Ironically, a few times I have been called the R word by Ole Miss fans, and I don't like the R word for this take. My GOAT, Colin Cowherd, said, hey, you shouldn't be allowed in sports media to have that take. It's stupid. Well, guess what? Ole Miss fans, you're going to be looking stupid here in a few weeks when you knocked out of the college football playoff. And lucky enough, with the new playoff rankings, you're going to host a playoff game. So congratulations. Even if you might lose it, you're not going to have this guy. Now, we get into the topic du jour. He is a thumbnail image. It is Mr. Blake Baker. Could he potentially be going to Tulane? So we dropped a pretty big update on this yesterday on the Patreon. If you want updates like that, patreon.com/LSU football. Some of you have requested me to do more of the insider source things. It's not what I do. I have a journalism degree, so I'm never going to lead you astray. I'm always very careful with my sources and all of that stuff. But yesterday, there was a lot of steam with Blake Baker and Tulane. And I also want to bring up another name in Memphis. All right. So these are two of the best group of five jobs that are out there. Blake Baker, obviously, like a lot of coaches, want to one day be a P4 head coach, and he's not really gotten that opportunity. And maybe he needs to follow what John Summerall has done and what Ryan Silverfield has done, which is go to those schools, have a lot of success. And by the way, both of those schools have had a lot of success even without Summerall and Silverfield. And those two jobs have helped those two coaches get to where they are now. Okay. And before Summerall, he was at Troy. Before he was at Tulane, he was at Troy and he won big there. And obviously, Troy is one of the other really great group of five programs. So the question isn't really, hey, is Blake Baker going to take the job? I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is that the interviews have happened and there is interest. And I will also tell you that this isn't the only time his name has ever been connected to the Tulane job. It's been connected for a while. And obviously, Blake gets to stay in South Louisiana. That's exactly what he wants to do. His wife, of course, is a big LSU fan, but she wouldn't mind moving down to New Orleans and taking, to me, the best group of five job that is out there. So should you be worried with Blake Baker potentially going to Tulane? Well, yeah. I mean, you should be worried because Blake Baker, to me, is a good defensive coordinator, and there is a lot of continuity on that side of the football if he does come back. Lane Kiffin has let it be known that he wants Blake Baker back as the defensive coordinator, and we should want him back, right? Our defense, of course, was amazing this season. But I don't think we should panic too much, right? There's other great defensive coordinators out there that Lane could go get. Lane is going to handle the more important side of the football, which is the offensive side of the football, which is the side of the football that really does need a whole heck of a lot of help. And then you start getting into how good exactly is Blake Baker as a defensive coordinator? Well, the truth is, I would have thunk if we would have gotten what we got out of Mansour Delane and AJ Halsey, which we thought that those two would be really good players. We did not think that those two would be all Americans. I mean, it was in the realm of possibility, in particular with Delane, but even with those two playing the way that they played, I understand Blake Baker had to deal with the Whit Weeks injury, and that, of course, really hurt our defense. Um, but overall, I felt there were some really rough times for this LSU defense in the bigger games that they played. And basically, it comes down to this. Not to get too technical here, we do love doing film study breakdowns, but there were a lot of walk-in touchdowns. And basically what I mean by that is touchdowns where the defense offered little to no resistance, in particular when we got into the red zone. Basically in every game that we played, there was some sort of coverage bust that happened where guys are running so wide open that they could stop, make a sandwich, eat it, catch it, and then go run for a touchdown. And that is just something you can't have from a defensive coordinator making as much as Blake Baker is making, which is north of $2 million a year, which is really high for a defensive coordinator. Outside of that, Blake Baker's been amazing. All right. So last year, he really didn't have a whole lot of talent to work with. I go back and listen to live streams at the time going into that season. I shared quite a few times that LSU was really lacking some defensive talent. You gave him better talent this year, and the defense was better. But I don't think if he were to leave, it would be a gigantic loss, right? Let's just say these two things were to happen. If I had to choose between Lane Kiffin having Charlie Weiss Jr. by his side or Blake Baker, I would probably want Charlie Weiss Jr. because, Blake Baker would have Lane would have familiarity with Charlie running the show offensively while Lane oversaw it, and they had their collaborative elite playmaking approach to that side of the football, where I think there would be quite a few defensive coordinators that would be licking their chops to come be the DC for Lane Kiffin. Because look, the last DC for Lane Kiffin is now a head coach in the SEC. Now, that's because Lane left, but I think quite a few DCs want to work with Lane because they really do think he's going to win a national championship at LSU. And the defensive side of the football, to me, is the side of the football where true talent is more important than on the offensive side of the football. And what is LSU going to have? Well, with our own home state recruiting, you're going to get to play with Lamar Brown if you're a defensive coordinator. You're going to get to play with Dominic McKinley. You're going to get to play with quite a few defensive stars, DJ Pickett. And you already have a good base of what could be coming back next season for LSU. Hopefully that includes Whit Weeks. And we'll talk about Whit here in a second. At the same time, you know that the NIL is going to be lit at LSU. You know you're going to have money to work with at LSU. So for me, I do think there would be quite a few defensive coordinators that would look at LSU as the job that they would want. And I'll be honest, I haven't kept up with this today. I had to drive to Shreveport, Louisiana, to take my mother to an appointment today. And I enjoyed my time at Shreveport. Had a great lunch. This isn't a paid promotion, by the way, with walk-ons. I freaking love walk-ons. I really do think walk-ons is an elite establishment. And I've met Brandon before, but still had a great lunch. I think our server's name was Jess. She was wonderful. And it was delicious. But, I wasn't able to work the phones as much as I would have liked to today. I will say this, though. I still stand by a lot of the stuff we reported in our Patreon piece yesterday, as far as Blake and Tulane. I don't think it's the absolute worst thing if he were to take the job. It's not what I want. I really want Blake Baker to be the next LSU defensive coordinator or still be the LSU defensive coordinator. And Lane wants that. Our team wants that. And I want that. But it's not the end of the world either. It just isn't. Okay. What would have been a near end of the world situation is if we did not get Lane Kiffin. Because think about where we could be right now, scrambling to figure out who our next head coach is going to be. Okay. So we welcome in everybody to the chat. Let's see who's all in here tonight. We say hi to Cliff, Wap God. Andy wants to talk about this this story, if you will, with Frank Wilson. And a lot of you want the Blake Baker hoodie. It is a one-off. It is a special edition hoodie just for Blake Baker himself. He confirmed that to Matt Moscona. So, yeah, I'm friends with Blake. I'm going on a show a little bit later. I wasn't able to get on the phone with him around this Frank Wilson story. Okay, so we don't even know what Frank's future looks like with LSU, if he's going to stay or if he's going to go. Today there was some movement when it comes to recruiting. Richard Anderson, who is one of the most important pieces, a defensive tackle at Edna Carr, he's pushing his date back potentially here. There's no telling in the early signing period if he's going to sign or not sign, but it was reported today that we could have some movement there. LSU is currently trying to hold on to Jabari Mack. And, once again, I've not been able to listen to the segment. I've not been able to listen to anything Blake had to say a little bit earlier. I was able to talk to him briefly, but not so much about this, right? I was, more worried about what I needed to get done today in Shreveport. Here's what I would say, though, as far as recruits and Frank gets a taste of being the head coach. He's done a good job going 2-2 as the interim. That was a record we thought we were going to go. We played Oklahoma closer than we thought we would. We played Alabama closer than we thought we would. We beat Arkansas in a rivalry game, and then we won the Western Kentucky game, a game where we should have won by a lot. All right, so the first thing is, if we would have struck out on Lane Kiffin, there is a very real possibility that that Frank Wilson could have been the permanent head coach in a 1-year try-it deal. Okay. It's also true that Frank Wilson is one of the most important LSU coaches of this era. So I won't speak too much on this, but it is important to note that the single most important thing are the 3 letters. It's not PHL. It's not NFL. It's not NIL. The 3 most important letters on this channel is LSU. Now, we can all have our love-hate relationship with LSU. And the point of this channel is to obviously allow myself, obviously, but to allow yourself to express your thoughts on LSU football and have a conversation. Sometimes those are positive. Sometimes those are negative. Comes with it. All right. But what I would say is it is so important to always be pushing the brand forward, because that is the one thing LSU always pushes, the brand. You saw today that the brand, I saw a really good tweet. I think it was Brandon Barrio or Harrison Valentine. I know both of them not well. I know Barrio fairly well when I used to do the media thing every day. And they do a good job of expressing the brand. How the LSU letters produce way more social media content and numbers. And obviously Lane didn't need any help with that, but now he's joining the LSU social media brand. Lane is the most interesting follow on Twitter when it comes to social media. And at this juncture, these 2 brands are colliding. And when you think of LSU and think of the great assistant coaches, one of the first 5 or so names you mentioned is Frank Wilson. So the truth is, I want Frank Wilson to still be on the staff. I do. But I only want Frank to be on the staff if he wants to be on the staff. Because I understand that, you worked so long to get this dream opportunity to be the head man, and you did fine in the short stint as a head man. But those 3 letters decided to go with Lane Kiffin, which is what they should have done. Okay. So, you know, we'll see how this plays out. I do think at this point, Frank should remain the head coach at LSU for this bowl period, for this interim period. Finish what you started, right? I wanted Ole Miss to allow Lane Kiffin to coach until he was out of the playoffs. That didn't happen. I think the same should be allowed here for Frank Wilson. Even if you don't want him on your staff next year and you want to bring in your running backs coach Kevin Smith from Ole Miss on over, I am of the belief that Frank should be allowed to coach the bowl game. So I don't know. I really, really, really don't know. Okay. But we'll see. I'll be on Blake's show a little bit later, NYS at 7:30. So, I really don't feel one way or the other because it's also tough because I like Frank a lot. I've shared my story before. I got to sit with him, with his family at the SEC championship game, and he's done quite a good bit of good at LSU. So I'm going to let all of this play out. We'll see what happens. But my phone blew up today. It blew up. In fact, this has been the most my phone has ever blown up because I am forever grateful that yes, he already said that. I was just hammering home my same opinion that I have of Lane in yes, I know. I was just reiterating my opinion on if he should be allowed to coach the bowl game. Because, well, I'll tell you this, it's not always the case. The guy that just got fired here took over at Cincinnati, and he coached the bowl game. At literally the final bowl game when he had just flown in to be the head coach at Cincinnati, and Brian Kelly coached the game. So sometimes that does happen. But yeah. Now, next thing. Crazy, crazy day for PHL. Crazy, crazy, crazy day. You are very fortunate that people watch what you do. It's still crazy to me that people watch and they value your opinion, and that's great. But never has my phone blown up quite like it has in the past 24 hours. And I didn't seek this out. It just happened. Our show got mentioned on the Bill Simmons podcast, which is the biggest sports podcast on the planet Earth. It wasn't Bill Simmons. It was Van, who a lot of you know and love. He was a guest on there with the Ringer Network. And, I posted the clip on Twitter today. And I didn't post the clip for like public validation. I've gotten mentioned on other national shows. It's just I idolized Bill Simmons growing up. And that was so cool. I couldn't believe it. Like Bill Simmons doing a podcast, and he heard a guest that he had on cite PHL for something he was about to say regarding Lane Kiffin and LSU. That's crazy to me. That is absolutely crazy. I'm just a guy with the show. All right. And the only reason that happens is because of you guys. It really is the only reason. I don't make a gazillion dollars from this. I'm not with some kind of major network. Any type of that happening when I don't have a team, I do 99.9% of the work. It's because of you guys. It's because of you. But we move on. Let's go to R. Penn Baker in front of the plane. Is that the MMR plane that picked up Lane? Lovely family here. Kyle Williams, 31831. Great. God, I love North Louisiana. I was in Ruston. Stopped at the QT in Ruston. Shout out Josh Pate. And they had a great iced coffee machine in there. Iced coffee in a gas station? Are you kidding me? There's nothing more I love on this planet outside of Patrick Peterson that I love more than iced coffee. And it was delicious. But, yeah, I would love Kyle Williams to stay on. But we'll see. It's interesting. Tulane's job opening has been connected to Ed Orgeron. All right, so we'll go through a few different reports. This is from Fletcher Mackel from earlier today. And the thing about Ed Orgeron's name being propped up in this search is a lot of it seems, just based on reading the tea leaves, that Ed Orgeron's name is being brought up from the Ed Orgeron side of things, right? Ed has done a lot of media interviews where he has said, hey, I've been out of this for 4 years. I'm one of the greatest recruiters of all time. I coach the greatest team of all time. I want to get back into coaching. So could we potentially see Ed Orgeron, the coach of the greatest team of all time, have a chance to be the head coach at Tulane? According to Fletcher, a trusted Tulane source tells him, expect a decision this week. Also, Ed Orgeron is making a big push today, and he is very interested. Okay. Will Hall, Chris Hampton, and Blake Baker have or will be interviewed. So there you go. Now, we get to this report here from Matt Moscona. And I have not been able to confirm this, but I trust Matt. He's a really good reporter. Billy Napier's name has been brought up at Tulane. Very interesting. Could Sunbelt Billy get an opportunity to coach yet again? This time at a lower level. I don't know. Now, we then get to the College Football Playoff Committee rankings. These are brand spanking new. It's part of why we delayed the start of the show, because this is very relevant from an LSU standpoint, because we do want Lane Kiffin to be able to coach in the college football playoff. It's not happening. Charlie Weiss is coaching in the college football playoff. It makes no sense that Ole Miss fans will talk about the crime against humanity to allow Lane Kiffin to coach his team in the college football playoff. And then they say, well, let's bring Charlie Weiss back. It's the same damn thing. If you're so worried about players being poached, why are you letting a coach from LSU come back? If it's that, don't let anybody come back. Okay? If they were for real wanting to stand on business, Ole Miss. Stand on business. But they don't want to do that. And this is what the bracket would actually look like. And this is where it gets a little tricky. So it's not confirmed that the ACC is going to get into this field. It's not confirmed at all. It's the 5 highest ranked conference champions. So if Duke wins the ACC championship game this weekend versus Virginia, they could get in. Now, the big news from this is that Miami is still behind Notre Dame. And that is the massive college football national argument right now. Why is Miami behind Notre Dame when Miami beat them on a neutral field? But not only is Miami behind Notre Dame, they are also behind BYU. I think an eye test would tell you that Miami is better than BYU. An eye test could tell you that Notre Dame is better than Miami. So that's where the eye test gets very, very, very tricky. I am a little shocked to see BYU ahead of Miami. I thought those two would flip. I'm also not shocked that Texas is all the way up to 13. They are ranked ahead of Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt will not get into the college football playoff. 2-loss Vanderbilt, who lost to Texas earlier this year. 3-loss Texas, they're probably going to be out. So now, you know what's next, right? One of two things can happen. These are some big brands being left out of the college football playoff. Big old. Think of those big old brands. If some of y'all are thinking about something else, y'all are crazy. Okay? Big brands are being left out of the college football playoff. For potentially Virginia, for potentially James Madison, for potentially Tulane, the group of 5 is about to get cut. It's about to get cut. It's about to get severed. So when you think about this college football playoff, Miami's about to be left out. Texas and Arch Manning's about to be left out. Vanderbilt's about to be left out. USC, the LA market, is about to be left out. And Michigan is right there on the outside looking in. Two things are about to happen. Number one, the group of 5 requirement's about to get cut, which I hate. And the reason I hate it is because it's less than 10% of the field. If Miami wanted to be in, don't lose to Louisville on a Friday night. Don't lose. If Texas wants to be in, don't lose to Florida. Get your ass in the tournament by winning your games. It's just that simple. We do not want to devalue the regular season any more than what we already have. But we are about to lose the group of 5 requirement. It's inevitable. There is so much more money to be had if Texas gets in ahead of whoever else. James Madison. But the number 2 thing is that this field is about to expand. I think when the powers that be see that Texas is about to be out, USC is about to be out. Now think about that. You're losing the LA market. You're losing the Austin market. You're losing 2 of the biggest brands. Then, guess what else happened today? We had a change in Heisman Trophy odds, where Diego Pavia is now the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. And I think that's justified. I do think he deserves the award. Now we can get into year 6. He shouldn't be playing. He got lucky. We can get into all of that. But you're also going to have the Heisman Trophy winner on the outside looking in. And while Vanderbilt's not a big brand, you also have the Nashville television market, which is not LA, but it's big. You're about to see changes in the college football playoff. There's a lot of money being missed. And the powers that be do not like missing out on money. And you know who else doesn't like missing out on money? The SEC. Because if you expand this bitch out to 16, Texas is in. Vanderbilt is in. Each SEC school gets an extra $4 million by making the playoff. Don't you think those schools want that? Don't you think the SEC and its member institutions, the conference wants that? They want that brand equity. ESPN, let's be honest, they love them some SEC. I love me some SEC. They want more SEC teams in the dance. Because think about it this way. If we had stretched this thing on out, and let's just say it was a 12-team playoff a few years ago, Jayden Daniels would have been on the outside looking in. Do you really think ESPN would have wanted a playoff field without Jayden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr.? 3 first-round picks. They want those guys in there. Okay? So it's going to expand. We're going to see expansion. Okay? Big ol' 80085. Now there's a TI-83 user if I see one. Pavia. Oh my God. Yes, 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 yes. Jared's back. Pavia and Heisman were in the same recruiting class. Oh my goodness. Along with Perry Ellis. Oh man, that is so freaking funny. That is so good. That's so good. Oh man. One thing on Pavia, I do think he deserves a Heisman Trophy. But I can't believe I'm about to state this opinion. There are times when you know you're on the right side of the argument and no one else is on your side. I feel like I truly am on the right side of this. Lane should be allowed to coach Ole Miss in the playoff argument. And the week before, the big topic du jour was there was a video of Diego Pavia's mom at a Vanderbilt game, and she was holding a football, and she was doing some kind of motion, like something that you would think a younger woman would be doing. And I defended Diego Pavia's mom, and I think I was in the right. I do think I was in the right position to defend Diego Pavia's mom. All right, he's trying to get with Theo Vaughn, whatever. So what happens the next week versus Tennessee? I don't know if y'all saw this. Diego Pavia's brothers got arrested at the Tennessee game, okay, for disorderly conduct, had too many cervezas. And look, I will be blue in the face until I say this. Welcome to the SEC, Vanderbilt. I love the Pavia family. I love that Vanderbilt in that game versus Tennessee out Tennessee'd Tennessee, right? They ran up the score, which is what Tennessee does. They put 45 on them and blew them out. Then to drunkenly get a public intoxication, that is what Tennessee fans do the best. Tennessee fans, I'm mad at you. You didn't get arrested. You can't let the Vanderbilt prim and proper academic scholars out Tennessee your ass. Okay? R. Penny Baker, good to see you. And is Trinidad coming? Let's get to it. Great question. The answer to that is complicated because there's three different things working in opposite directions. Lane wants Trinidad. He does. Now, the first thing is obviously if you were to want Trinidad Chambliss to be LSU's quarterback next season, you are rooting against Ole Miss in the playoff game. Okay? Now, there's a few reasons why I want to root against Ole Miss in the playoff game. Number one, it makes LSU look good. It makes Ole Miss look stupid. But the big thing is, let's just say Ole Miss loses their opening round playoff game, and Trinidad says, look, I want to play another season. Well, it's harder to get all his ducks in a row if he's still playing in the playoff as we move closer to the early January portal window. And then the second thing is this is Trinidad Chambliss's final year of eligibility. He is working with the NCAA to get an extra year. And we get back to the Diego Pavia conversation, which is, should you get an extra year of eligibility? And the truth is, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks in particular that will say, hey, it's unlawful for me to not make the maximum amount of dollars. I think I deserve an extra year of eligibility, and so on and so on. I'm telling you right now, Tennessee's going to try and do this with Joey Aguilar. There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to try and do this with their quarterbacks. So you then get into, and this goes along with Pavia, this also is a topic for Jaden Daniels. This is a topic for quite a few different quarterbacks because, you know, not so much Jaden because it was the COVID year, but you have these quarterbacks playing these extra seasons. Quarterback is a lot easier when you have more experience. A lot of the better quarterbacks, not only in the NFL, but in college, are older. There's not many young quarterbacks in the NFL, not named Drake May, that are just dominating right now in the league. It's a lot of older guys, a lot of guys that have been in the league for a very long time. Same thing in college. The older quarterbacks are the better ones. So those are the three things with Trinidad. You have, number one, he's in the playoff right now. Number two, does he get this extra year of eligibility? And then we get to the big one. Does he want to leave Ole Miss as another victim? Because he has already seen Lane Kiffin get, publicly trashed. Does Trinidad want the same thing to happen to him? For one, let's just say Pete Golding didn't like Trinidad Chambliss at all. Even Pete Golding wouldn't be bold enough to say, hey, I don't want you as my quarterback anymore if Trinidad were to come back and play. So if Trinidad wants to come back, he will start next year at Ole Miss. But Chambliss knows a big reason why he is successful is because of the Lane Kiffin offense. There's a lot of benefits of being a quarterback in the Lane Kiffin offense. And it's weird because it's a juxtaposition of the Vanderbilt offense. Part of why I think Pavia deserves a Heisman is Vanderbilt still plays the game of football with training wheels on. They play at a very slow pace. So the numbers that you see from a Diego Pavia are even better because he doesn't play as many plays as some of these other quarterbacks do. It's not like an exorbitant, difference between him and Mendoza or Sayan, but it's still crazy, right? How much slower Vanderbilt is than basically every other team in the SEC. Whereas if you're Chambliss, you get a lot of snaps. And if you've watched Ole Miss, and I've watched a decent amount of Ole Miss, the Mississippi State game is one of the few games I got to watch from start to finish because there was no other games on. And Ole Miss isn't one of the bigger teams I do film studies on the SEC channel. You do notice Chambliss misses throws. There are guys that are open. And the Mississippi State game was the one that was really bad where he missed quite a few guys. So Lane Kiffin's offense gives you a lot of wiggle room where you can miss guys. And that something else is going to get drawn up and called for you. That's going to be a big gainer. Then, of course, you have another domino. And this could be arguably the second most important transfer portal domino. What does Kawan Lacey want to do? What does Lane want to do at running back? The thing that makes Lacey different than Durham and Barry is that he's a bigger guy, okay? And he's going to have just a larger frame than Barry and Durham. I think Durham, Barry, and Kawan Lacey would be the best running back room we've had since Fournette and Geist. All right, we've not had a running back room really that deep in a while, right? Our running back rooms have been a little shallow, if we're being honest, for years now. So, we had a good one there with like I always thought the transfer from Notre Dame, number 21, Noah Cain, was always a little underrated, but that would be one of the best running back rooms we've ever had at LSU. And that's saying something. If Kawan Lacey came over and we're able to keep Durham and Lacey, okay? But the truth is, we just need good running backs. All right, Lane's going to scheme things up. And I do think Durham and Barry are good enough for Lane's system. I do think Lane, though, with a fresh set of eyes looking at what we have, is not going to want a running back room that small. He wants to get somebody bigger in there. Not that those two guys can't be our two main guys. It's just, what does he do on short yardage? Lane likes to have a defensive tackle taking direct snaps. That's just how he likes it. All right. So there you go. Now, the black hoodie looks great on me. Look, my wife's in here. Appreciate it. This hoodie is actually from our wedding night. Yeah, I walked down the aisle in a hoodie. I'm kidding. Wore this at the end of the receptions, and it was a thing of beauty. Okay. Now, what's up, Tyler? Good to see you. LA Mom has never liked Pavia. Oh, man. So coming up next, LSU lost one of its fastest players of all time today. Power Hour Network listeners and viewers, you might be consuming this content with that crick in your back that you've been trying to get rid of for so long. Take this as your sign today to book your appointment with LabourdTherapy.com. In the Lafayette region, there is no one that you will find that cares more about any different type of pain that you might have than the team at labordtherapy.com. Book today. Once again, that's LABORDE therapy.com, or you can visit one of their 5 locations all throughout the Lafayette region. PHL Nation, it's time to lock in and get serious really quickly with our friends at Fortified Gulf Coast and FortifiedGulf.com. This is my buddy Ramey. He is one of many Fortified Gulf Coast inspection professionals that are doing something to help you not only save your home, but your memories.
The Fortified program got started about 13 years ago. We adopted it here in New Orleans about 2.5 years ago. It's a more advanced way of doing the roof. It adds an extra layer of protection, whereas even if a hurricane was to pull the shingles off this roof, water will still not get into the house.
So yes, your establishment is important, but what about the things you can't replace? That family scrapbook or that painting that's been handed down from Meemaw to Papaw and to you. It is important to protect that today with Fortified Roofing. And while this seems like a priceless asset, did you know it can actually save you on your homeowner's insurance up to 37% if you are in South Louisiana? Just call the number 504-444-7563. That's 504-444-7563, or visit fortifiedgulf.com. That's FortifiedGulf.com. Let's go. All righty. So Jelani Watkins, one of the fastest LSU players of all time, 10.1 100 meter. He is in the Trendon Holiday category. So why hasn't he produced? And why is he transferring now? Well, it's hard to play wide receiver at LSU. He's had practices where I've gotten texts saying this dude is different. But, you know, he's a 2-sport athlete. He has a bright future in track and field. Might be an Olympian. And he is a really good SEC track and field guy. It's not just an LSU thing. He's just great. So he's leaving. You know, it's interesting how this works. All right, so let me go back to the Southeastern game where Jelani Watkins should have had a walk-in touchdown from Michael Van Buren, who throws a great deep ball. All right, now Van Buren wasn't that great in the intermediate, but he could throw a deep ball, okay? And what happened was one of LSU's backup offensive linemen, I think a lot of you know which one it was, got pushed back into the lap of Michael Van Buren, and we could not complete the deep pass to Jelani Watkins for a touchdown. All right. So this has been a conversation when it comes to Austin Thomas, when it comes to LSU. We need to do a better job of roster allocation, because the truth is we have no idea if Jelani Watkins is good or not, because it's impossible to know if he's good or not. He hasn't been able to play. Our wide receiver rotation was a chasm, all right, to where it was deep, but it was also not deep in terms of guys that we could trust to go out there and truly make a difference. The only guy I truly trusted at the end of the year to be consistent and catch the football and do what's asked of him is Xavier. You know, you had Chris out there. Didn't have a good season. Even with the back quarterback play. Didn't do anything. You had Aaron out of the lineup. He was going to be great. He got hurt. Then we've already seen Kylan Billy out transfer. Then we also had Nick Anderson. He got hurt. So we still had all these guys get hurt, and the wide receiver rotation was still too deep. So the truth is, and there was a good piece today in terms of Tennessee's NIL, and they weren't able to report specific numbers on who got what when it comes to NIL packages and all of that. Same is true here. All right, I have a good idea of who's getting what. We did had to spend up to get a Nick Anderson, if you will. But the truth is, number one, we have too many wide receivers on the team. And then number two, we don't know if they're good because the wide receiver rotation is so deep and our quarterback play was so rocky and our offensive play calling was so rocky. But then number three, even if they were good and even if our quarterback play was better than what it was, it's impossible to know when your offensive line is getting caved in. So the one moment where Jelani Watkins, he burned the defense versus Southeastern, walked into the end zone for a touchdown. The ball was underthrown because the offensive lineman was in Michael Van Buren's lap when the ball was thrown. So what can you learn from that? Well, the first is there's far too many wide receivers in college football and not enough great offensive linemen. It's a basic math equation, right? You have 5 offensive linemen on the field at all times. At most, you have 3 wide receivers on the field, sometimes 4. You could potentially have 5. So now, if I were Austin Thomas or Mr. Glasscock, Billy Glasscock, who's coming over from Ole Miss to run things for LSU, if I was either one of those guys, I'm paying all my money to getting the best offensive lineman we can get out of the transfer portal. Keep in mind, we can have a conversation about Josh Thompson. He played the most snaps out of anyone on the offense, and he got better. He got better as the season moved on. We've got to allocate all our resources to the offensive line first. And LSU tried to do that. They did. But even if you're not getting an elite offensive lineman out of the portal, it's more important to take shots there than it is at wide receiver a gazillion times over. Once again, I don't know how much money Jelani Watkins was getting or if he was getting any at all. I don't even know if we were using a scholarship on him because he's a track and field guy. But, man, I think he could be a good wide receiver wherever he's going to go next. Okay? Now, to Chance's point, I hate that Watkins is leaving for the track team. So we do have the biggest day of the year, or what used to be the biggest day of the year. The early signing period. It is tomorrow. Now, are there rumors out there that we have some guys out there thinking about, hey, I'm going to push my signing day back so I can figure out where my role is with this new coach? Yeah. As would any recruit when you have been committed to certain coaches for so long, which is why I want Blake Baker to retain or be retained at LSU. And he is retained at LSU if he chooses to stay at LSU. So I won't get into any of these players individually, but there's been so much smoke with Richard Anderson, who you could see has moved up the 247 rankings to a 5-star. I feel good about Lamar Brown signing, but at this point, I don't know. I really, really, really don't know. I have heard basically everything at this point. Deuce Gerald's is probably my favorite player to watch in this class. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's the best player in this class, but I love me some Deuce Gerald's. He is a lot of fun to watch. So, as is the case with any of these guys with the new staff, especially if you're on the defensive side of the football and you don't know who your defensive coaches are going to be next year, you could see quite a few dates pushed back. I like Aiden Hall a lot. I'm a little shocked that Aiden Hall has fallen as far as he's fallen in the rankings. I think he's good. I do. He was a top 100 kid. Now he's not a top 100 kid. Okay. And then we get to 2 commitments that we added today. J.C. Anderson, a 6'6", 240-pound tight end out of Mount Zion, Illinois. And then we also added Ryan Merritt, or Murray, out of Miami. 3-star, 6'4", 290. Signing day could get weird. Could get very, very, very weird. Now, how important is signing day? It's very important. Okay. I have a Tulane guess throwing shade at me. I don't know why. Or Tulane, let me know. This Tulane writer says is calling me out on Twitter. Do you want me to have him on? Maybe he's got some insight. I don't know. I've never, because I don't want our streak of only great guests to end by some Twitter rando, but he runs a big Tulane site. Okay. I'll put him on. I'll put him on. What about Winston Watkins from Ole Miss? I like him a lot. Okay. I do. I really, really, really do. Okay. Now, let's talk about the latest LSU commitment. This just broke not too long ago. Braden Allen out of LCA has committed. Okay. 3-star, 6'1", 170-pound tight end, wide receiver. And look, he had offers from Colorado, Oklahoma, BC, Texas Tech, and Appalachian State. I've not watched him at all. But welcome aboard. If the LSU staff wants you, I'm down. Let's go. So congrats, Braden, on your commitment. Seth Lopez says use on 3, 247 is washed. I will not take 247 slander on this site, on Power Hour LSU. We will not take it. Not in this economy. Sorry. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Let's go to Pierce. It's been one day, and I'm already sort of sick of the Lane experience. Why? Pierce, you've been one of the most diehard PHLers. I thought you were on the Lane train with me. Okay, use composite. I will say, Seth, I am pissed at 247 as far as their composites. They don't use a composite on the main site anymore. You've got to click on the profile to then get to the composites. It's a weird thing. It is a weird, weird, weird thing. Okay. So for Braden Allen, let me see. Yeah, he's a 4-star composite as a 420th ranked national. But normally the 4-star composite cuts off at like around that 420 mark. So he's barely a 4-star. I would prefer him to be a 3-star because you have that extra chip on your shoulder. You want to prove the world wrong. Yeah, I'm a Louisiana 3-star. That used to be a badge of honor, being a Louisiana 3-star. That used to be something that you were proud of. I'm going to prove these haters wrong, baby. I don't like dropping Kenny Darby, the 5-star receiver out of North Louisiana. I'll tell you this. My crown jewel of 2027, Peyton Houston, tweeted out some positive vibes about today. Lane Train, if you're watching, keep Peyton Houston, please. Please, please, please. Please. Okay. So what is the latest with the? Let me see, Kenny Darby. I like Kenny Darby a lot. I really do. I actually have sat and watched him. Four-star 2026 out of Airline. He's someone else that's I believe dropped in the rankings. Yeah, I was about to say. Started off as a 3-star and then got into the mid 150s, and now it's in that middle 220 range. Crazy. Yeah, Cliff, but I mean, he's 2 years in and he's not a factor. I do think he is going to consider dropping football altogether, though, because he is an absolute monster in track and field. Monster. Okay. All right. I'm going to do something I normally don't like to do. Okay. But now that it's kind of out there, Curvin Johnson Jr. Curvin Johnson Jr. That's a great name. Has flipped to Ole Miss. So there was a wide receiver who flipped from LSU to Ole Miss. Let me see. So once again, I'm a big supporter of On3 as well. This is via Shea Dixon. There's now buzz that beyond Richard Henderson and Aiden Hall and Havon Finney not signing tomorrow, Lamar Brown and Deuce Gerald's. Okay. Once again, if you want an On3 subscription, go sign up. They do a great job. But I don't know. We'll see what they decide to do tomorrow. Not going to lose too much sleep over it, though. I'm just not. We say hi to Jared. Thank you for the super. Okay. Let's go to here. We know how the clearinghouse works for the NIL. But honestly, what do I think the coaches have when distributing money for players they absolutely want? Yeah, so let's start with the clearinghouse. Yeah, I'm down with Savage, the new strength and conditioning coach. But let me start by saying this. As far as who gets what when it comes to NIL, it's really hard to say. It's really, really, really hard. Okay, I know of some players on this team that took less out of the portal to come here. We know, obviously the famous ones, a guy like Bryce Underwood, if you will. What he makes, he's getting $3 million a year to be the quarterback at Michigan. But what's interesting to me is a lot of these deals are set in place But a lot of these kids still do commit to LSU because of the coach. So let's take someone like Jalen Chapman, who was a really, really, really good offensive line prospect for LSU. He's not going to be in this class. Okay. He's just not. So, part of why I didn't talk about him too much today, and that did happen today, is do you want Jalen Chapman to be a part of the class badly enough for Brad Davis to stay? Because Brad Davis is an incredible recruiter. He has been the best offensive line recruiter we have ever had at the offensive line coach position. And I've shared plenty of times that a lot of these kids commit to Brad Davis because they love him. Hey, sissy. So that comes with the territory, right? So I like Jalen Chapman a lot. When he committed, I watched him. I tweeted it when it happened. And I don't tweet a lot of commits. Offensive line commits are the most important. And, we're not going to have them. Sucks. But that's where we are right now. Brad Davis has not done a good enough job developing and coaching the offensive line to where you can justify how good he's been doing as a recruiter to keep him. Okay. As Sourdough Man points out, it does no good if he can't coach him up. Yeah, Seth, I don't know. I really don't know about the Chambliss waiver. I really, really, really don't know. Jordan's moved on from 247. I'm still a fan of 247. I don't know what y'all talking about. We will not slander 247. I like On 3 a lot too. I like them both. I like that On 3 revitalized Rivals. That's nostalgia. Yeah, dude, Shannon Terry is an absolute monster, bro. I thought the big thing today from the college football playoff rankings is that Texas Tech is number 4. You see earlier today, Tyrann Matthew said, how quickly would Tyrann accept an offer from Lane Kiffin to join the LSU staff? And Tyrann said the following. Okay. We'll play this and get to a few more of your supers.
It's done everything for me. So if he called you and said, "Hey man, T, I got a position on here for you, man. How fast can you get down here?" I mean, today,
Yeah,
I could be down there today.
Oh God,
give me a couple hours.
You called
Give
up
me
a
a couple
driver
hours,
real quick.
right?
Yeah.
I love that school. I love that program. It's done everything for me. You know what I mean? Just becoming a man. My children love it. Yeah, man. I'll be there for sure. I would want to coach or be a part of the player development.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, if he was to offer me any one of those, I'm showing up because I believe in him too. Right. I think we're going to finally have the offense we've been craving.
Yeah.
Right. And that won't be the issue anymore for us.
Right.
I'm really excited to see how this goes.
The Badger. I'm down. So there you go. Havon Finney. There's some steam there. The corner out of California. The Corey Raymond special. 6'2", lengthy. I did find it interesting that Corey Raymond tweeted out his resume, basically. Not his resume, but what he's done this year. I don't know. Here's what I'll say before I go. Okay. If I were advising Lane Kiffin, and I understand, I'm about to go on Blake's show. He said what he said. Once again, I don't know what all he said about Frank. I stand by what I said a little bit earlier. I think we need to keep Frank Wilson on the staff. I do. I really, really, really do. Because I do think he would be open to being an assistant. He's worked with Lane. He's got a relationship with Lane. It's just going to come down to what Frank wants. Okay. Who do I like more, Patrick Peterson or the Honey Badger? Well, I'm friends with Patrick, so I would say him. I do not know Tyron at all. I've interviewed him before when he was a player, but I actually collect more Tyrann Mathieu memorabilia than I do Patrick Peterson, but I'm a big Patrick Peterson fan, and he's a fan of the channel. So there you go. So I would try to smooth things over and get Frank Wilson on staff. But I don't know. Let's keep it going. Will Kiffin's name be like Saban's name, and everybody just comes? Everybody just does what? What? No, it's not going to be like that. Saban was definitely in the pre-NIL era. Well, players were always getting paid, is what everyone says. But it wasn't talked about this openly. It really wasn't. Like, it's not the same at all. Okay. But yeah, I do think there are going to be quite a few players excited to play with Lane. It just also comes down to what Lane wants to do with the staff. And obviously this Blake Baker situation is interesting. I think Durkin's going to stay at Auburn. I do. And but I do think he's the best defensive coordinator in this conference. I think what he did, I think he's the best assistant in this conference. This year, he was the best assistant coordinator in this conference. So put it like that. Either him or Bobo, either one. That's how much I love me some Mike Bobo. Some of that's some troll, a piece of me trolling there. Huh? Yeah, I am LA Mom, but he pushed it back. So I normally like to give my audience a lead in over there. But yeah, I'll be over there in a second. Let's go to Chance. Kevin Smith has been with Lane 9 years. Okay. Let me give my opinion on Frank. I want Frank to stay. I really do. And this first class is vital, right? The only few people that truly matter, though, on a coaching staff: head coach, OC, DC. All right. Now, if you're a superstar recruiter, like Frank Wilson has been, then you truly do move the needle. You really do. But once again, how much does he want to be here? I don't know. I really don't know. Okay. So, it gets into, hey, how good of a recruiter is this guy for me to justify him staying here? Well, Frank is obviously the maestro of everything Louisiana high school football recruiting. Let's go to Zach Attack. I mean, Blake Baker for sure. If it's about money, how much does he want? Okay. Well, it's not about money. It's not, right? If you go to Tulane, for like Blake's making $2.4 million a year to be at LSU, $2.3 million. Tulane, he would be getting a significant pay raise. He would probably get $4 to $4.5 million, if not $5 million a year to coach that team. So his salary is doubling. So it is about money. But it is also about power, right? You get to be the head man. Okay. Okay. Now, a few of you have asked me, who do I want to be the next LSU defensive coordinator if Blake Baker leaves? DJ Durkin would be by far my number one. This would be my number two. He's going to get a big raise. It just comes down to what he wants. Is Sheil Wood, young DC with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Now, you do get a little concerned because they have the biggest, and I mean biggest talent advantage versus their competition in all of college football. Texas Tech has the best defensive line, and they're in the Big 12. And that's quite frankly won them their games. And they had the best linebacker this year in Rodriguez, number 10. But Wood, young DC, 3 different years. Well, he's been a defensive coordinator with 4 different schools in 4 years. But one of those stops was at Tulane. I really like watching that Texas Tech defense operate. But then again, you do get worried with a defensive line that dominates every snap. That just doesn't happen in the SEC anymore because it's just so evenly dispersed. Like, you don't have these Georgia defensive lines anymore that just go out there and win you games. Okay. Why are we sitting at 11 in recruiting? What will change? Well, what will change is if we have some big commitments tomorrow. Okay. Oh, we got an OU. Oh, we got an OU troll. Well, Cody, I have a big Oklahoma following on Power Hour SEC. I said big. It's not that big. Pause. But yeah, check it out. Kind of crazy that Vanderbilt's going to be left out of the playoff. Kind of crazy. Saw Jacobian today. Congratulations. Congratulations. Saw Tank. Timeline for hiring Ed Orgeron. I don't know. He is trying to get the Tulane job at this time. Okay. Now, that'll do it for me. I'll be on shortly with the great AYS Sports. Once again, big shout out to the Bill Simmons podcast van for shouting me out on there. If you want to see the clip, you can go to Power Hour LSU. Definitely cool. I didn't see it until everyone told me I was on there. Now, my next goal is to be a guest on that show. Bill, hit me up, man. Hit me up. We could talk about Larry Legend. We could talk about Randy Moss's Patriot years. We could talk about how different movies were in the 90s to now. Come on, sports guy. I go all the way back. Page 2 days, baby. These are my readers. And time for Pearl Jam. Ha, 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 ha. True story. I've seen Pearl Jam live. I saw them at Jazz Fest in New Orleans. Now, at Jazz Fest, you can go to a bunch of different stages. I was also a country DJ at the time, and guess what? Brothers Osborne was performing on another stage, and I've interviewed those guys, hung out with those guys before, so I went and saw them for a little bit because they're nice. The times were a little, I think, overlapping, if I remember correctly. I also was a little sauced up. Oh, man. Oh, okay. Now you want to get in here at this LSU sucks stuff. Well, Cody, before I block you, why is it that you've lost every game of relevance to LSU? And it took the most busted coverage of all time for you guys to beat us this weekend versus the worst team we've ever had at LSU. And you're in here talking trash? Later, bro. Christopher's already getting cold feet about the signing class. I can't wait for the transfer portal to get here. Oh, man. What I don't get is with coaching, the next evolution in head coaching is going to be not having a head coach signed before the early signing period. And Texas did a really good job of this a few years ago. I won't get into it because I do have to go. But there you go. We will be live again tomorrow. Signing day recap at 6 p.m. Central. We'll see you then, okay? Big thanks to all our super chatters. Benny, our pin just destroyed it tonight. Jay Addison as well. We appreciate it. Let's check the Venmos. See here. I didn't get any tonight. That's all good. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Tonight, we are doing some ribeye leftover sliders from walk-ons. Let's go. Let's go.